everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, Alan Owensman, a senior editor and author of the Current Climate newsletter. Alan, thanks so much for coming back on.
Hi, Brittany. Good to be with you today.
You and I have talked about the competition in the robotaxi space, and before we compared Tesla's robotaxi to one of the industry's leaders, Waymo. You said Tesla's version was a disaster waiting to happen. Now you're saying forget Elon Musk's company completely. A different robotaxi could be a bigger competitor to Waymo. Talk to us about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yesterday I spent time with Zoox at their new factory in Hayward, California. It's in the Bay Area, not far from Oakland. Zoox is owned by Amazon. So, like Waymo, it has a massive, giant parent company that's able to fund it and over time will want to utilize it. Zoox has been around for a while. They've been a little lower key. They were next month, July, will mark their 11th anniversary. So over a decade of operation. They got a lot of attention early on. They had one of their co-founders, Tim Kentley-Clay, was an interesting character, kind of a high-profile guy. He's not with the company anymore, but their other co-founder, Jesse Levinson, the CTO and co-founder, has been with the program from the get-go. And Jesse's overseen the development of their system. He's coming out of a Stanford University computer science background, so heavy AI guy for a very long time. But Zoox is an intriguing potential rival to Waymo, because while their system is very similar, they've tested and developed in similar ways, their differentiator is going to be the vehicle itself. That this is a purpose-built robotaxi, unlike any on the road today.
And I want to first compare Zoox to Tesla because you said it has the backing of a massive parent company, Amazon. But Tesla has the backing of the richest person on this planet, Elon Musk. As you and I sit here right now, Forbes is estimating he is worth $410 billion. So what happened where you're saying Zoox, forget Elon Musk's company, Zoox really leaves them in the dust when it comes to the robotaxi space?
I think it's the development approach that Tesla has taken that is of great concern. Elon Musk, at the end of the day, his argument is we're going to be the low cost provider of this, and we will win because of that. And that has a great many people concerned because this is a new technology with a very high risk of loss of life if it's not done well. You maybe should rethink wanting to go as cheaply as possible out of the gate. And literally that is Tesla is in a class by itself in saying, we're going to win because we're cheap. And it's cheap because they're using far less sophisticated sensors. They're using a small group of about 8 basic digital cameras, 5-megapixel cameras. By comparison, the Zoox mobile has 18 cameras. It's got 8 LiDAR units. It's got 4 thermal cameras. It's got radar. It's got, auditory speakers and microphones. It's just loaded with sensors. And the reason they're doing that is they want this vehicle to be they want maximum safety. The vehicle needs to be able to see and hear everything in the world. And unlike Tesla, I mean, their point is, look, we're not selling this to you. You're not going to buy this from us. We're going to operate this for years and years and years in our fleet. So we can invest more in safety tech to maximize safety. Objectively, the approach that Tesla is taking is a very high risk one, going with a cheap system, low-end sensors, and hoping that its AI is powerful enough to be able to understand the world, to be able to see in bright, direct sunlight, to see through fog, to see in rain and handle snow. We have no clue, no objective data to cite to validate how good Tesla's system is. There's just none. Unlike Tesla, both Zoox and like Waymo have been testing publicly for several years and filing data with agencies like the California Department of Motor Vehicles. So you can actually look up and see specifics about how their test vehicles performed when they disengaged, which means when a test driver had to take over because the AI couldn't handle the system. So we know and we can see how it's improved over the years as the disengagement rate drops and the system is able to operate autonomously for ever greater periods of time. We have no clue how well the Tesla system works. We just don't know. They don't file any public data to validate their claims.
To your point, cheaper isn't always better, especially when cutting corners financially could lead to an accident, could lead to death. I mean, that is some serious stuff that Tesla is playing with here. But based on your reporting, it sounds like Elon Musk really thinks that Tesla is still the industry leader. He said this in April: "I don't see anyone being able to compete with Tesla at present." But in the self driving car and taxi space, Waymo outperforms, and you're saying Zoox outperforms. But is there any indication that Elon Musk knows this? Is Zoox on his radar?
He's not referenced Zoox specifically. He doesn't really talk about any company other than Waymo, frankly, at this point. There are a couple things that are also important to keep an eye on. Robotaxi versus autonomous driving. An autonomous car drives itself. So your personal vehicle someday might be fully autonomous. That doesn't make it a robotaxi. A robotaxi, like an Uber or a traditional taxi, has to work with people. It has to do things. It has to operate in difficult urban situations. That means safely picking up and dropping off people, not blocking traffic, knowing how to react to emergency situations if there's an ambulance or fire trucks, and doing the appropriate thing. So it goes beyond just, can the vehicle drive safely using the AI system? That's the, that's anteing. That's the price of entry in this space. To be able to do that, being able to operate as a service, just like a human cab driver or like an Uber driver, you have to spend a lot of time practicing doing that. Waymo has spent years practicing doing that before it began hauling commercial passengers. Zoox is doing the same thing. They've been doing public road tests and practicing pickups and drop-offs and things like that this entire time. Again, that's another area where, what has Tesla done? We don't know. They've shared no data. They've not publicized it. They've provided no objective information about what their development process was to launch a robotaxi service.
Alan, I live in a city. I use Uber or another rideshare service at least once a week. So I would be a potential candidate for something like a robo-taxi. And when I'm thinking about myself and if I would use a robo-taxi, I mean, my number one concern would be safety. And you've reported Waymo went through years and years of tests. They could respond to any safety concern you had, any question you had. They had an answer for you. I mean, could Zoox say the same based on your reporting?
I think so. Zoox is a few years behind Waymo just in terms of their development pace. But they're certainly catching up and coming on quickly. But yes, I think Zoox, like Waymo, will also have sort of backup remote operators. And what that means is they're not physically controlling the vehicle. If the vehicle gets into a jam, or if you as a rider have questions or concerns, there's basically open communication immediately with these remote operators. If the vehicle finds itself in a difficult circumstance, both Zoox and Waymo, the vehicle can send an alert to the backup operator, and the operator can see everything that the vehicle sees through all of its cameras and LiDAR and everything, and can help it figure out what to do if it's a very unusual road condition, for example. So it acts as this sort of, guardian angel kind of thing that can intervene with advice, but it's not physically controlling the vehicle. So that's something that Zoox is developing and deploying to ensure that the vehicles operate safely. So they're never 100% on their own. There is a human in the loop that's keeping an eye on things. It's more like air traffic control, though, I guess.
So aside from being a few years behind and playing catch up to Waymo, how would Zoox differentiate itself from other competitors in the industry like Waymo?
Well, again, it goes back to this purpose-built vehicle, which is really fascinating, and that's something we haven't yet seen in the United States. The sort of Zoox mobile, I mean, they don't really have a specific name for it, is from the ground up designed only as a robotaxi. Inside the vehicle, it's what they call carriage seating. So you have two bench seats, basically, facing each other. So if you're riding with friends or family, it makes it, possible to have conversations in a more normal, a standard way. It opens and closes with these sort of sliding doors that are reminiscent of like, transit car doors, these flat doors. That's very helpful because that means the vehicle can actually get in and pick up people in tighter spots than is possible with a Waymo or a Tesla that has, conventional sort of swinging doors, hinged doors. It doesn't work that way. It's a bi-directional vehicle, which means there's really no front or back. It's like it's identical on both ends, and so it can go in either direction. And it has the same lighting and sensor configurations on both ends. So that makes it a little different. And the company points out it's a foot shorter than, say, a Toyota Corolla, but has about 30 or 40 more percent interior cabin volume. So it's a very roomy cabin, and inside, it's a pretty comfortable seating position. You can make choices like you can select the music with streaming services. You have lighting settings. It's designed to be an experience, and Jesse Levinson, who's been working on this for over a decade, points out they spent a lot of time in the early years talking to people and testing different configurations to see what did people enjoy the most, what did they find the most comfortable. So they won't really talk about Waymo or Tesla in detail, but what Zoox is saying is we think our differentiator is the vehicle. This is going to be a different, better experience, they believe. Also, it's got, they've got two guys working at the factory, running the factory, who come out of Porsche and like Ferrari, Lamborghini backgrounds with these like specialized vehicle things. And it's developed like a really high-tech active suspension system. So on bumpy roads, it's a more stable, more comfortable ride for you as a passenger. So they've done everything to make this a more pleasurable experience as a vehicle than a conventional cab or an Uber, and something that's very distinctive and easy to see that would stand out versus a Waymo or a Tesla. I did ask one question I was kind of curious about because Waymo has an interesting feature. Today, Waymo does pick up and drop off at the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. And they have a lot of Waymos coming in at the same time. So if you've hailed one and you're waiting in the pickup area, in the ride hail zone, just with the Ubers and the Lyfts, the Waymos are picking up there. How do you know which one is for Brittany? Well, it might have your name on it, or it might flash your initials. So I asked the Zoox people, like, how are you going to do that? What's your approach? And actually, one of the features that they think they'll be offering will be you can choose a specific color. You have a range of color options, and when it arrives, it'll flash your color bar. So you'll get a visual signal, a cue that it's arrived, and you can, it might be maroon or aqua blue or turquoise or yellow or something, but it'll be a color that you specifically have chosen flash for you that'll help you find your vehicle. It's a little detail like that doesn't seem like that big a deal, but actually can be really helpful if you have 6 or 7 of these lined up. Which one is yours? Which one do you get into? And there's no human to call your name out, for example. So there's a real thoughtfulness in the development process, similar to what we've seen go into Waymo. And again, what is Tesla doing on that front? We don't know. They haven't talked about any such thing.
Well, hopefully, multiple people waiting for their Zoox pickup don't all like the color green or something, because then, I mean, that might be confusing. But we've seen these we've seen these robotaxis launched in the Sunbelt states because weather is certainly less of a concern there. Where are we going to see Zoox roll out?
Zoox is starting in Las Vegas, and the expected launch, Aisha Evans, the CEO, won't say specifically, but it sounds like it's going to be December, toward the end of the year. And they want to start there. She won't say exactly how big the fleet is, but the factory in Hayward has begun building vehicles in advance of that December launch. And she did throw out a number that what she called a medium-sized city should have between 500 and 1,000 of these Zoox robotaxis in its fleet. And so perhaps that's what they're working toward with that initial launch. Following that, they're going to go to San Francisco. And then it's a little less clear what the order is going to be, but they want to go to Austin, Miami, Los Angeles, and Atlanta. And so to your point, they are hitting the Sunbelt states that don't really have inclement weather for the most part. However, just today, Waymo did announce that they're getting a new test permit for the city of New York. They've tested in New York briefly in the past. They're coming back to start road tests on public roads in New York City. They've been there before, but they're coming back again, probably with more units. And that's usually an indicator of where they're going to launch next. I mean, they're testing in Nashville and Washington, D.C., and even in Tokyo. So, Waymo is definitely on the rise in that sense. But, New York is going to be hard for everybody. It's the weather, it's the density, you've got way more to deal with in terms of, pedestrians and cyclists and all kinds of things. And so New York is going to be hard for everyone. They'll get there eventually, but that's going to be the tough one. But, if they can get to New York, they can probably do any city, it would seem at that point.
Yeah, if they can make it in New York, they can certainly make it anywhere. And Elon Musk said that he was going to roll out Tesla's Robotaxi in Austin in June. And on June 10th, someone on X asked when the first public ride would be. And this was his response: tentatively June 22nd. We are being super paranoid about safety, so the day could shift. First Tesla that drives itself from factory, end of line, all the way to a customer house is June 28th. What do you make of that date? What are you anticipating for the June 22nd tentative launch there?
I think the Tesla pilot program is going to be highly controlled in available in a limited portion of the city. So I think they'll launch something. We don't, it's supposedly only going to be 10 to 12 vehicles. I think the company is going to watch them very carefully. They will also have remote operators keeping a close eye on those vehicles. Um, Tesla's goal, and it's an interesting one, is that if you're a Tesla customer, their pitch is when you're not using your vehicle can go out in the world and act as a robotaxi, and you can make money on your car, which sounds good in practice, but it raises a lot of questions because if your personal vehicle suddenly is out there being used as part of a robotaxi fleet, who's going to clean it up if it gets messy? If someone has a small child that gets sick in the car, like how frequently is that going to be cleaned? The behavior of passengers. For Zoox and Waymo, they're closely monitoring passenger behavior. So if someone does something inappropriate, you will be fined for it, and they know exactly who it is, and you'll have to pay a cleanup fee, for example. But they also have resources to cycle the vehicles into depots and have them cleaned and prepared and sterilized for to be used again. Um, I don't know that Tesla is doing anything like that. I think they're saying if you would like to, Airbnb your car, basically, put it into this robotaxi fleet, but you would bear all the costs potentially, or at least the inconveniences of having to maintain and clean your vehicle. The other thing that's very interesting, I think, in the case of Zoox, which I will point out, is fascinating. They're targeting a 16-hour charge or operating cycle these are electric vehicles. Charge them once a day, preferably like between the hours of maybe 3 or 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., for example, and then send them back out. And they're hoping that they'll be able to operate a 16-hour shift. And their calculation is that's the equivalent of 3 human drivers every day. They can haul as many people as 1 Uber driver or 1 taxi driver per vehicle, which is a really high utilization rate. Waymo is actually cycling their vehicles a little faster than that. They're not putting them out for 16 hours at a time. They might be doing shifts of 4, 5, 6 hours and then bringing them back in from time to time to top off the charge. They're trying to keep them going as fast as often. So in terms of utilization rate, I think Zoox has a really aggressive plan for how they're going to use their fleet. Try to only charge once a day, and then just really work them hard for 16 hours a day, and ideally keep each vehicle in service for 5 years or 100,000 miles. So that's a very interesting strategic plan on their part, the way they're going to like use their fleet very, very heavily and intensely for a period of time. And this goes back again to Tesla. It's Tesla has not yet announced a company-run robotaxi service, though it seems like that's where it's headed. Its Cybercab model, for example, that's due next year. Perhaps that will be run in company fleets. We don't know for sure yet. Tesla seems to be promoting more of an Airbnb approach with your car, that you personally can turn your car in and use it as a robotaxi and make money for that. But then again, as mentioned before, you have all of the maintenance and cleanup costs that the owner would likely have to bear.
I want to talk about that because I have a question about that Airbnb approach. Because, sure, let's say someone makes a mess of your car, you're responsible to clean that up. But you have talked about before, time and time again, the safety concerns of Tesla's Robotaxi. I mean, what happens if there is an accident and you're in your car, someone dies? I mean, are you on the hook for that as the owner of that vehicle? Is that Tesla's problem? I mean, what's the insurance there?
That's a great question, and I actually don't know the answer yet. That's an unclear area of law at this point in liability. That if it's your vehicle that you've put out there, and that vehicle is involved in a serious accident, what is your exposure as the owner? That's a great question, and I haven't heard a good answer for it yet.
I mean, that just opens really a can of worms. But based on our conversations, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like based on your reporting, you would feel comfortable getting into a Waymo. You would not feel comfortable at this point getting into a Tesla robotaxi. How comfortable would you feel today getting into a Zoox on the road?
I've done a brief test ride in the Zoox a few years ago, and it was fine. I haven't tried it yet. They are testing in San Francisco and in Vegas, and I have not yet ridden in one that was that was operating on its own, fully autonomously. So that would be a TBD. But I know the development team there. I've been speaking with them for years, and I appreciate that they're trying to get it right. Their former chief safety officer used to run NHTSA. He was a former head of NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So they prioritized a very high degree of vehicle safety from the get-go. And I know that the vehicle does have some unique safety features. It's got really wild, like airbags, for example, like all around it. So that alone would give me some comfort that if anything were to happen and it were involved in an accident, you're going to be encased in airbags basically pretty fast in that thing.
Well, that does give me a sense of comfort as well. Alan, I always appreciate reading your reporting, speaking with you, you breaking it down. Thank you so much. I'm already looking forward to the next conversation.
Great. Thanks. Good to be with you, Brittany.